Thank you very much, Dr. Neil,
Yes.
and welcome. This is the Dr. BMS channel.
Okay, glad to be here.
In this channel, we discuss matters mental health.
Yes.
We talk about mental health issues generally, but especially as it affects our young people. Yeah, so Dr. BMS is about the body, mind, and the soul.
Wonderful. You cannot delink the two. All of them, yes.
Yes, you cannot.
Yes.
So kindly start by introducing yourself to our viewers.
Yes. My name is Nial Tudlam, originally from South Sudan, but currently based in the United States. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at Washington University in St. Louis, where I do research. I work with ICHAD, International Center for Child Health and Development. Yes.
That is very nice. How long have you been in the U.S.?
Oh, okay. I've been in the U.S. too long. I moved to the U.S. In 1999.
Wow.
From Kenya.
That's about
22 years,
22 years ago.
Yes.
And now from Kenya, did you say?
Yes, I left from Kenya to go to the United States. Yes.
Tell us about you and Kenya. You're
Yes.
from South Sudan.
Yes, originally from South Sudan. It took a lot of detours. So I come from this border region between South Sudan and Ethiopia. So part of my family from Ethiopia, part of my family from South Sudan. And I came to Kenya from Ethiopia, and I went to high school in Kenya. And then after finishing high school, we left with my family to go to the United States. We were resettled as refugees under what used to be called family reunification.
You've talked about important things.
Yes.
Your life in Kenya, your life in South Sudan, your life in Ethiopia,
Yes.
and now in the US.
Yes.
You are world citizen.
Quite traveled, yes.
Yes, so tell us about your story. How did you end up staying in all these areas?
Well, so we, as you may recall, South Sudan was obviously at war starting in the 1980s. Oh, well, the war goes quite back to 1955, but the second civil war, which started in 1983, was still raging. And then so we moved to Kenya. So my dad fled the country when there was an attempt on his life, and he came to Kenya. So he brought most of the family to Kenya, and then that's how I ended up in Kenya and went to high school in Kenya.
You went to high school in Kenya?
Yes, I did.
Do you like to tell us which
I
one?
went to Ruiru High School.
Ruiru High.
Yeah,
People
yes,
from Ruiru High.
People from Ruiru. I have lots of friends still in Kenya and even in the US now. Yes, we went to Ruiru High School. Yes.
How was it growing up in Kenya and going to school in Kenya as a refugee?
Yeah. It was good. I think we were able, I was obviously still younger than I am today. We were able to assimilate. I mean, it was difficult to learn the language. I did all of my elementary education in Ethiopia. So coming and adjusting to new life, I think I started in Form 1. So having to learn Swahili and all of these things was quite challenging in adjusting. But, as a young person, a lot of the time young people are able to adapt to whatever situation they're in, and we were able to adapt. Yes.
Okay. Because we deal with the body, mind, and soul,
Yes.
I would like us to delve into the mental health challenges of young people,
Yes.
especially when you are displaced from your country
Yes.
and you have to move. What mental health challenges could you attribute to such a scenario?
Yes. So I'll come to this as a researcher. So I mean, I didn't know better before I got into to research. So as a researcher, my area of study is in this area of intergenerational transmission of trauma. Comes from the idea that trauma can be passed from one generation to the next generation. And my work mainly focuses on refugee children that have been born in resettlement countries in the United States or in Australia and Europe. So those are children I focus on, because that's an easy way to see if it is in fact there is intergenerational transmission of trauma, whether that trauma or the mental health issues or the behavioral problems that these children may face, it is easier to see whether it's as a result of something that they got from their parents. So that's one portfolio, one component of my research.
Okay.
The other component of my research deals with refugee youth that are still in refugee camps or in some of these transit places like Kenya, like Uganda, Kampala, and places like that. And so we deal with those. We know from the literature that anybody who has experienced conflict, war, they get affected, and there is evidence in the literature that children tend to be affected more. And so the children who have been through war, they go through trauma, they can develop PTSD, they can develop depression, they can develop anxiety, and things like that. So that's what my focus is on. What is the level of this problem within the refugee youth community? So I have a study that is going to be done in Uganda, now bringing the intersection of that also with youth who have HIV/AIDS. So what is the level of this mental health problem crisis in this? Because nobody has quantified that yet.
Yes.
And then we need to move it to the next step. What are these interventions that we can develop to help these young people?
Okay.
Yes, that's where most of the
Okay. So what would we see? People have been through trauma, like especially children. What should we watch out for as adults or caregivers or people in this situation?
So children who have gone through trauma, obviously they have PTSD. That's the most common thing that people show up with. And obviously
PTSD
post-traumatic stress disorder,
Yeah.
which basically you experience constant replaying of these traumatic events that you have been through yourself. I dealt with my own PTSD myself. So my father was in the liberation struggle, and he died in a plane crash. And for so many years, I had nightmares of planes crashing all the time. And so, as a person, that's when I was getting into this research. That's what got me into starting thinking about PTSD and depression and anxiety and all of that, because I dealt with it myself. And so my question as a researcher was, to what extent are other people experiencing this? And it turns out actually it's quite common among young people. Yes.
Okay. So you have vivid memories of the
and
trauma.
I wasn't even there when yes, I was alive and I knew my father died in a plane crash, but I wasn't at the scene.
Yes.
But these things kept playing in my head, so you don't necessarily even have to be there. One of the things we talk about in trauma research is there is this idea of re-traumatization.
Yes.
So for those of us who are living removed from the conflict zone now, so if, for example, I was in the US and then a war happens in South Sudan in 2013, that is re-traumatizing because I still have family there that are being killed, that are, and all of that. So that can re-traumatize you, even if you are not necessarily physically there. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That is quite unfortunate, but also very good to know, because we need to be more appreciative of what people could be going through, even if they are not living in that situation at the moment.
Yeah. And I mean, and there are also complexities added to that. So for those of us who live abroad, there is racism, there is discrimination, there is all kinds of things that can happen that may in fact, lead to isolation, that may lead you to, and isolation, as you know, can lead to depression and anxiety, and then you just fall into this spiral, vicious cycle of, just not knowing how to get out of that situation.
Yes. You did mention something very important, that young people tend to be resilient.
Yes, young people can be resilient. Yes.
What would you tell, because right now there are still wars going all over the world, even in Ukraine, Afghanistan, we know what's happening.
Yes.
What would you tell a young person, a teenager, maybe a young adult, going through such situations?
Yes.
What strengths can they call back on?
Yes, I think the most important thing is if you feel that, because I think for us, we're growing up, we are taught, okay, you have to be strong, you have to do this, and we tend to bottle up a lot of our feelings. And what I would encourage people to do is talk to somebody. That is very important. If you have access to a professional, that is even better because the professionals can know how to deal with this. The thing is, you are not crazy.
Yes.
And you're not crazy. These feelings are legitimate, and I tell people, mental health, we should treat it the same way we treat cancer. If somebody has PTSD, should be treated the same way we treat people with cancer, diabetes, or some of these other. But there is stigma attached to it. So if I start talking about, how I'm feeling, like that's part of the reason why I talk openly in whatever forum I talk at. I tell people, hey, I dealt with my own PTSD, and I've been able to do things that helped me to get in a better place. So confronting, in my case, was basically confronting these symptoms head on was what helped me get to a better place where now I'm able to I don't even remember the last time I had nightmares about planes falling out of the sky, right? And so those kinds of things that people can do, talking to people, having a strong social support. Obviously you may not have a lot of say in that, but if you have friends, you have family members, seek them out, talk to people. That does help a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if it is serious, please seek medical attention. Yeah.
Thank you. So what you say is seeking help is not a sign of weakness.
It is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, because you are saying, I know I have this and I need help. Because you can only, if you also want to help other people, you need to be well first.
Yes.
Because I realized I needed to be well too, so that I can be there for my family. I have kids,
Yes.
I need to be well to be there for them.
Yes. Oh, that is very nice. And I really must applaud you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are really an epitome of resilience, and
Thank you.
where people can come from adversity
Yes.
and still make something out of their life.
Yes.
Yeah, so this, we know people are at different stages, but there are some people who will hold on to their problems.
Yes.
Like, I've been through this problem,
Yeah.
so that's why I get into drug abuse.
Yeah.
Did you have a challenge, like wanting to get into drugs?
I did not necessarily have it. I think even from earlier on, I was raised in a family where these kinds of things were sort of. I think from earlier on, I knew they weren't my solutions, right? And thankfully, maybe it was just sheer luck that I didn't even think about, that was the way to solve some of my problems. I've always, I have very strong mentors, not even just in my family, my father, my uncles, and my teachers all the way from high school. I'm still friends with them up to today. So I've always had these strong mentors in my life that say, okay, you do this, you're really good, you can do this, you can do that, who provided some guidance. And I think that has been very, very helpful for me. And so, but what I would say is, I know people even in my own family who dealt with substance abuse, and that is usually not the solution to all of these things. In fact, it just compounds the problems, and so you end up in a much worse place than where you were before you got into this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's very useful, and our viewers, you have heard it from somebody who has lived through adversity, gone through hard times, displaced from his country, right from a quite a young age, has seen it all, but above all, he has been able to rise, and he's a senior researcher.
Yes,
he's a senior researcher.
Yes, thank you.
They are trying to provide solutions and
For these
answers,
problems, yes,
to
exactly.
the problems, what people can do differently, what people can do better.
Yep.
And you've had substance use of alcohol, cannabis, whatever substance is not the answer.
Yes.
The answer is to seek help, seek professional help, because help is available. Inform yourself, use resources which are available to you. We have resources like we have now the Dr. BMS channel, which gives you this information and more information. We run a mental health facility, the Fountain of Hope Treatment Center in Syokimau. Our details will be below this video. So seek help, and help is available when you seek it. Yeah, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'd like you to give us your parting shot.
Yes. Like Dr. Ari said, this it's important to seek help. and seeking help is definitely not a sign of weakness. And you know, and you shouldn't treat any mental condition any different from the way you would treat diabetes or cancer. I keep telling people that stigma, I think, is a big problem for us, and we need to deal with stigma and get rid of it, because that's the only way people will be comfortable to come and seek help. And once you seek help, there are solutions to these problems, and I think once you identify those solutions, then you can get to a better place where you can, you know, be a productive member of your family. You can be there for your family. You can be there for your country. You can be there for your global community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Those are very powerful words.
Yes.
And main things you've said: seek help, fight stigma.
Yes.
And you know, stigma starts from inside.
Yes.
We have what we call self-stigma.
Yes.
When you accept a label and you want to take in that label, assimilate it, and hold on to it, then it doesn't help. You need to get out there, seek help. Help is available. Seek better coping strategies, because people have gone through adversity, and from what we've seen, there are even opportunities.
Yeah,
Sometimes
exactly.
you realize in going through hard times, you create an opportunity.
Exactly.
An opportunity has
Yeah.
been created for
Yeah,
you, or you have created
Yeah.
it, of being a researcher.
Yeah, there is a growing field right now called post-traumatic growth, which basically this idea that people who have gone through trauma come out of it stronger and
Stronger.
better, and there's a lot of growing evidence that does in fact exist. Yes.
So there's post-traumatic
Growth, yeah,
instead
where
of post-traumatic
traumatic
stress.
yes,
So we need to move more towards post-traumatic
Yeah,
growth,
yeah, it's possible.
and then get the best out of the experiences we go through, because they can be a learning experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's just the way we appraise it, is the way we use the resources around us, and the resources are there. So there you have it, our dear viewers. We appreciate our
Thank you.
visitor
Asante
today,
Daktari. Yeah,
and
happy
keep
to be-
coming.
No problem.
Haya,
yeah.
tuma salamu watu wa Ruiru.
Yeah, Ruiru people, hello to you all. Thank you.
Okay, and tell them to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe please, Adika, and learn from Daktari here, and hope to run into you when I come to Nairobi next time.
Karibu sana, and
Asante.
thank you very much.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
No
it.
problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
kwaheri.
Bye-bye. Kwaheri.
All right.